Hi, this is Keith. Today I'm going to be sharing my approach for trading earnings and how can we use options to take advantage of earnings or other news events like that. And for me, this is something that I don't really do consistently. It's sort of a back pocket trade, maybe a kind of a fallback, if you will, that I do. Like I've kind of found myself in the last couple of weeks where I just haven't had other trades to put on, right? My normal premium selling strategies aren't really producing a lot of opportunities, or just based on the market, I'm just not comfortable with that type of trade. So then I go and I look for other strategies, and I've got a couple. This is one of them, that is the earnings trades. Another one is a volume-based trade. So I'll be documenting that one as well as in a similar way. My goal here is to actually for earnings specifically, I'm gonna be trading it more consistently. So I've kind of learned, hey, this is probably something that I should be doing more consistently, again, to sort of diversify my portfolio, and also just to ensure that I'm practiced, right? So when you go back and you say, okay, I'm going to take an earnings trade, but it's been 6 months since your last earnings trade. You get a little bit rusty, or you need to, okay, where do I go? Where did I keep that rule set? Or which spreadsheet is that in? Or where did I keep that? Is there a PDF or something that I've got that has those rules? If you're trading things consistently, then obviously that becomes sort of more ingrained, and your decision making, I guess, is a little bit more crisp. So that's my intent here is let's be more consistent. Let's trade earnings on a regular basis. Again, we may not always have earnings trades available to us, but I'm going to at least be consistently looking for earnings trades, I guess, probably the best way to say it. And in doing that, what I want to do is I want to document that process. So again, rather than having my rules in different PDFs and spreadsheets, to actually have kind of a trading module, I guess, recorded like this in video, that would document that, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see what the outcome is. I think this is going to be a long process. Trading earnings for me isn't just it's not just one, okay, if this, do this, right? It's there's many different scenarios, different trade types to be used depending on the what scenario you find yourself in. So this is going to be a long process, right? This is going to be a sort of a pretty in-depth, if we wanted to say that this is going to be a how-to manual for trading earnings, what I'm expecting is probably be about 4 or 5 different kind of, strategies within that can be used for earnings, and again, document each of those. Hopefully over time, in the coming, maybe 6 months or a year, we'll have experienced all of those, and I will have it recorded, right? I'll have it documented, and that's the goal here. I'm going to do that again for other strategies as well, really for the volume-based strategy that I mentioned, and also for some of my other core strategies as well. So yeah, with that, let's go into my approach. What do I look at? How do I make decisions around options trades for earnings? Okay, so let's look at some of the tools and data platforms that I use for options trading, and just wanted to kind of give a bit of a overview of my workflow and how some of those tools, I guess, fit within that workflow. I'm going to start here with Option Alpha. This is the bot trading platform. I've just been obsessed with this lately, and they've just introduced some new earnings functionality. They're calling it the Earnings Edge. So that's one of the things actually that prompted me to say, hey, maybe I should be trading earnings more often. It was kind of this new feature obviously triggered in my mind that, hey, maybe I should be doing more earnings trades. So thanks for the Option Alpha team. I mean, focusing on this and delivering some really unique and new capabilities. We'll take a look at it. We'll see whether it fits within my workflow. Again, this is just something newly introduced. As far as automation, I don't plan to do any sort of bot automation related to earnings trades, and I just don't think it's required. And also, where this strategy fits within my particular portfolio here would be in my larger trading accounts. So those accounts exist on Interactive Brokers, so that those aren't integrated at all with any sort of with this Option Alpha platform in any way. So I think it's going to limit me to sort of do a manual trading. I think that's a good thing. I think for anyone that wants to follow along with me, I think that's a good way to kind of learn the process, right? Is to actually follow it, manually. So So just keep that in mind. Maybe one day, if there is integration, or if I decide to allocate more of my capital to actually my bot trading accounts, and then I might consider some automation. But we'll look at their earnings functionality. Maybe that there will be a component here. We use some of their data or some of their analytical tool, the backtesting tool here that they have. We'll take a look. For me, the first thing that I need to do, right, is I'm planning an earnings trade. I need to see which symbols have earnings coming up. So we can kind of see that here. This is their kind of, I guess, spread select tool here, kind of similar like to their trade ideas concept, where they've just presented a bunch of trades for the symbols that have earnings coming up. And it looks like if we sort by earnings, they're going out about 17 days from today. So, it's just sort of the ones that are having sort of immediate earnings in the next, I guess 3 weeks, it looks like. If we want to look a little bit farther out, what I would do is maybe go to the screener, and we could do the same thing there. We can sort there by earnings. So if I'm in Option Alpha and I just want to see what has earnings coming up, we can see for the next week we only have 3, so very limited opportunities there. I've already kind of called out one that I kind of have an interest in here, Adobe. We'll probably take a look at these other ones. I'm not going to be doing that today. That will be probably next week when the market's open. Anytime you're making trade decisions, obviously you want live data, right? So you wouldn't want to be making trade decisions based on aftermarket data. Sometimes just some of the closing prices or things get a little bit out of whack, and obviously you're going to put this trade on the following day or even several days from now. So no point doing the analysis now until you're really actually ready to make that trade. So today I just want to cover kind of more of the process in general. So I can see I've already identified 3. Again, small list for next week. Again, I don't need a large list. I just need if there's only 3 and there's none of these are appealing to me, then I don't make a trade, right? Very, very simple, very simple. So the reason I came here is I generally look further out. So further out than that, what's it called? The earnings edge, I think, which was looking out 3 weeks. I would look by 4 or 5 weeks out as well. And that's twofold. One, I have a strategy. There's an earnings related strategy where you're sort of playing the lead up to earnings. So I would normally enter that at about 4 weeks out, and then exit the position the week before earnings. So it's, again, different approach to trading earnings, and it just requires looking a little bit further out. The other reason I look further out, and I'm kind of adding to my watch list stocks that have earnings coming up, just for my awareness purpose, so that I know that hey, there's a potential opportunity here that will come to me in a few weeks, and I just want to make sure that I'm aware of that. I'm following that stock a little bit more closely in advance of that putting on that particular earnings trade. It's not again, my approach may differ than the kind of Option Alpha approach, right? Which is, hey, what is there today? Let's see what trade ideas or what this earnings edge is recommending. I'm a little bit more careful and want to be very, very selective. Not just in the trade opportunity, but actually, the symbol, and is it a stock that I'm familiar with and I'm comfortable with entering a trade, and do I have an opinion, right? And sometimes it may take me that week or so before earnings for me to kind of help formulate that opinion in terms of what my directional strategy will be. Is it going to be bullish, bearish, or neutral? And again, for each of those 3, I also have sort of a level of magnitude, right? I have a decision to make around, are we going to be outside the expected move, a larger move than expected, or are we going to be within the expected move? So all of those are things that it's a decision process that needs to be included here. Having that advanced knowledge and being prepared for making those decisions is obviously very important to me. So that's why I look a little bit further out. The real tool that I use, and just go there now, is the PowerX optimizer. This is a Rockwell trading platform. I use it for their wheel strategy. That's kind of how I came to acquire this tool. And I still use it for that, but I also really fond of their earnings tool built in within this platform. So here I actually get the weekly view. So this is last week. Last week actually I had trades in CrowdStrike and Lululemon. Just like this view, it just shows me for that particular week. I can see CrowdStrike after the market closed. Lululemon also after the market closed, but you can see these other ones before the market closed. So, before it opened. So I know when I need to plan for that trade, right? Do I want to be entering that trade? Is it, in this case, Lululemon? I'm going to put it on Wednesday, and before those earnings are announced at the end of the day. For this one, if I were to enter trade in Dollar Tree, I would want to put it on the day before, right? Because that announcement happens before the market opens. So again, this is really designed for options traders. It's really well thought through. I just like how it is. You can see we've got the same. I think these are the only 3 opportunities next week. I think those are the same ones that we saw in the screener. Yeah, identical. This one I think we have. How do I get there? I can do all. So we have a broader list of stocks that are available here. I generally just use this, what they call most anticipated. Anything in the Dow, the S&P 500, or NASDAQ indices are included here. That's where my focus is. These are the big name stocks. I don't even see anything that stands out here. Dave and Buster, yeah, maybe there's some other ones of interest here, but I generally, I don't need a lot of, like I said, I don't need a lot of opportunities. I just really need 1 or 2 good ones per week. So I'm not going crazy trying to trade every single opportunity that's out there. And again, you want liquidity, so you want the bigger names. This one does go out, I think, 4 weeks. So it's giving me kind of a view sort of 4 weeks out into the future. And this is where I'd be looking if I was to enter a one of those longer duration trades, again, pre-earnings trades. And I entered one of those last week in Micron Technology. So when this refreshes and we have kind of a new set of data here for next week, if I'm interested in placing one of those trades, putting that on next week, then this is where I would come to kind of find that information. Or, as I mentioned, to kind of add it to my watch list, those sort of upcoming stocks. Again, it's always, important to be sort of looking ahead and seeing what's, even it may influence my decision of what I trade next week, right? Is looking into the future of what's coming, and maybe I might pass on these 3 because there's only 3 choices, and if none of them really appeal to me, and especially if I know that in the coming weeks there's some stocks that I'm much more excited about or have more experience trading or more knowledge of, I may want to sort of wait and put on those, wait for the trades to come to me, as opposed to just act because there's only a few set of trades in front of me. And this tool, just to kind of wrap up here, I mean, I kind of like the way it presents the information, and all the kind of key information that I'm interested in is kind of right in front of me at the top here, right? So what's the current, the next earnings date? How far away are we from that? Is the earnings confirmed or not? What's the expected move? And what happened last earnings, right? So when was last earnings, and what was sort of the outcome in terms of price move? And again, that's really the key information that I'm really most interested in. Again, I've got some sort of historical data, and I think I can change how far back I'm looking in terms of that historical data, and it'll refresh the stuff. For me, again, I don't really care looking back too far. I'm just really going to look at sort of the more recent price move. But again, most of the information I use is at the top. This has, again, a bunch of all the data and history, and goes back, back to 2018. So I don't use that information, so I'm not really going to comment on, whether it's helpful or not. For my purposes, not really relevant. The other thing, again, when we're confirming the earnings date, I like to check multiple sources. So again, that's one reason why the benefit of having multiple tools. So the other tool that I use is Earnings Whispers, and that's a tool I'd recommend if you need just a secondary source, or another source to be able to verify that earnings date. And I think that's really important. Don't rely on one specific platform, because there's a lot of potential for this data to be incorrect, right? Because it's kind of corporate events that are dependent on the company reporting the correct information, and where they get that data from, I'm not sure. Again, I've seen different sources being sort of out of sync and not having the correct dates. So before I place an earnings trade, again, it's important for me to verify that multiple sources have confirmed kind of that same date, and that yes, the earnings are indeed confirmed. So we can see that here as well. In earnings whispers will give us whether it's confirmed or not. Probably more relevant for those longer duration trades where you're looking a bit further in the future. Again, you really do want to make, in that case, it'd be very important that it would be a confirmed earnings date. So we can see some information here. I'm just really using it to look at is the date right and is the check mark there. And we should hopefully that matches, right? 13th. I think honestly, this data in this PowerX platform is actually coming from earnings whispers, because it just looks similar. They have this confirmed checkbox, and they also show the logos and stuff. So I suspect that maybe it's the exact same source, but for me, as long as I've got a couple of sources, so I use sort of earnings whispers probably less now that I actually have been using the PowerX tool. So let's just go back to Option Alpha, and we can just compare against their earnings edge capabilities. They show a lot of the same information. Let's pick Adobe Stats. Just for me, again, the information I'm most interested in is this sort of the price move after earnings. So that expected move, which is again up here right front, the next date. They don't show the confirmation tick mark, so the dates are actually also wrong, right? Because of my time zone, it's showing Friday, June 14th. So for me, I probably won't be using this as a source of information. Just for that purpose, it's misleading and potentially confusing. And I know I can change some setting in my browser to use a different time zone, but I think that's going to mess me up for other applications that I use. So I don't want to have browser settings specifically just for Option Alpha. So that's a bit unfortunate. It just leads to a lot of confusion, even these dates. So these are all, these past dates are all off. You can see when I hover over it, it's saying 4 a.m. So it's showing that as an afternoon time, which is early my morning the following day. So I mean, I don't look at any of this. I don't care this far back. I don't look at earnings that far back. It's not relevant to me whether they beat expectations, a year ago. Is that going to have some influence on their next earnings? The fact that they even beat expectations or beat on EPS or revenue, that is not relevant to me at all. You can see here, I mean, for Adobe, they beat 100% of the time, and that's all of these bars are green, which means there's never been a miss. But you look at the price move, and there's been some big misses or big disappointments in terms of actual price moves. So that's what I'm most interested in. And to be honest, really what I'm using mostly is probably entirely would be the price chart right here. So this is Adobe giving me the same information, right? I can go back to the prior earnings. This is actually my standard kind of chart layout. So I always have earnings. Again, these sort of vertical lines here kind of colored in are where the actual earnings are occurring. So I always have that on my chart. So in this case, if I were to enter a trade in Adobe, it'd be very obvious to me that that bar is telling me, hey, there's earnings coming up very soon in the near future. So that would impact my decision to enter that trade. So again, very important to me that that's part of my kind of just normal workflow, not just specifically for earnings trades. And I can see I've got the estimated EPS. Again, that data I don't really follow. I don't read earnings reports. I don't look at EPS or any of that kind of information. So not relevant to me. The implied volatility. So across the bottom, I've got implied volatility charted. So the green line is implied volatility. The purple is historical volatility. And I also have a view here which shows the sort of ratio of implied to historical. So these purple bars mean it's sort of very low implied volatility compared to historical. And we can see, I mean, these actually correlate to the actual earnings, right? So implied volatility is going to grow leading up to an earnings announcement. And you can see this is that ratio is kind of being very high in terms of, at that point, options are going to be very overpriced, right? The implied volatility is much higher than the historical volatility. So again, these are again visual cues that I use in part of my sort of options trading, not just for earnings trades, but they are, as you can see. In this case, my decision on Adobe, I mean, just it's kind of obvious here why I'm interested in this one. Because I can see, look at the last earnings report, big move down prior. 3 earnings reports ago, big move down. A little lesser in terms of size, but still a big gap down, right? Not just a move down, but a gap. And a big move up with a sort of large red candle, following. So more of a sort of neutral move there. So, I mean, we saw that, right? We looked at those bars in the Option Alpha platform. It's giving me those price moves. I think it said this one was an 18% move. But just visually, I can just see it. And probably when I'm planning my trade, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm predicting an 18% move. I'll probably look at my prediction based on the expected move. But in this case, I'm probably going to go wide. If I do a neutral trade, it's certainly going to be a very wide trade, give it lots of room to move, because we can see it tends to gap after earnings. That's the recent history. I'm not going to look back any farther than that. It's just not relevant to me. I don't believe that earnings from a year ago is going to have any real influence on future earnings. So no point for me to kind of look back that much farther. I'm also looking at the sort of historical trend of implied volatility. Another thing that caught my interest here is just this huge level that it reached for implied volatility over the last earnings report. So, I mean, you can see that's why we had a big move, because we had obviously a very large expected move, because such a high implied volatility. And again, we're predicting probably a very large move again. We have a very high, again, you see kind of a bit of a correlation here in terms of this move up. It has a similar pattern, and I'm expecting probably a similar outcome. I'm looking just the price chart. Again, it gives me so much more information than just statistics, right? I'm actually looking at the trend here. It looks like a bearish trend, right? We're sort of moving down. So most likely, kind of the opinion that I'm forming just looking at this chart is that I will want to do a directional trade. It's probably going to be bearish, and depending, I mean, the applied volatility is probably so high that I may be able to just do a neutral trade, but kind of skew it a little bit more bearish. And we'll cover that. We'll get into that and more closer to when we actually put this trade on. But that's just kind of the things that the chart is actually telling me. So again, I like this earnings information here. This price move. We just saw the same thing on the chart. There's that big, actually it wasn't 18%. What was it? Price move. 5-day price, 1-day price, 13.67%. And I like that. I like the categories that it has. I think 5 days must mean 7 calendar days, 5 business days. I think that seems logical to me. 1 day. This is probably going to be the same as end of week. Yeah, those two are the same, and that's because earnings. I don't know if historically if it's always been on a Thursday, but certainly for the last earnings and the next earnings, I definitely noticed are Thursday announcements. So they're going to be a 1 DTE trade if you follow this particular strategy that's within their kind of proposed backtest tool here. Maybe I should explain that. Okay, so lastly, let's just wrap up. I just wanted to also just cover the backtest piece as well, which is I looked at that to see whether that might be applicable to my trading style, or my sort of strategies. And just I wanted to call out one of the things that I've noticed is I wanted to make sure I understood the rules of that backtest. What is it actually testing, right? So obviously it has to have some very specific criteria based on what you pick for your strikes and how you set that up. But here I just wanted to call out. I don't think it was clear from the video. It was explained certainly. The expiration that is used is the Friday following the earnings event. Okay, so in this case, this is Adobe. Earnings announcement happens after the market closes on Thursday. So the trade entry here is always, it looks like, the afternoon before the event. Okay, so these dates are actually off, and that's sort of how I'm determining that it's actually done in the afternoon, because anything after noon would be my morning time. It'd be after midnight for me. So to me, that means that we're placing this trade probably at the end of the day on Thursday and holding to expiration. Again, that coming Friday. In this case, it's just one day, so a 1 DTE trade. So this is assuming, and it looks like for the most part, these are 1 DTEs. There's some are probably a little bit longer, so it may not always be on a Thursday, but generally, important concept here is that trade entry, right? It's right, putting it on right before earnings, right? And that's probably advantageous. That's most likely, that is the way that I would be trading as well. So I will be with this trade on Adobe that I'm going to do in the coming week. I will enter that trade not in the afternoon on Thursday, just because of my time zone. So I'll be doing a morning trade. That's when I'll put the trade on, and I will see if I want to follow this same process using that immediate Friday expiration. In this case, I probably will. I may do a couple of tranches. I may do one of that Friday expiration, and I might do one a little bit longer out. The reason I tend to, with earnings, I tend to go a little further out in time is I like the monthly expirations, a little bit more liquidity, and I like to have a little bit more time to be able to react to that earnings event. And that's, again, something also not really explained in the video. Again, the backtest holds to expiration. There's no exit criteria. There's nothing being done here to kind of exit early. My strategy is not going to be that way, right? I probably, unless certainly if the strategy, if the outcome is out of the money, significantly, and with that collapse in implied volatility, all of a sudden we just have plenty of room and we don't have any risk of assignment, then certainly yes, I will hold to expiration. But if I'm in the money, I will exit the trade, immediately after earnings, as soon as that earnings event forces me into being in the money. Not just this one that's a Thursday to Friday, but certainly even like that example with Hewlett Packard. The outcome of that earnings event was known on Wednesday. It was pretty far, in the money. So in what I would have done in that case was I would have closed that position, and there's some complexity there, again, just to be aware of that could be an involved process. And again, another reason why sometimes I like the monthly expirations, just a little bit more liquidity, or a little bit more time as well to be able to ensure that I can exit that trade and avoid risk of assignment is really what we want to do. I'm okay getting assigned. That's also an outcome that may occur here, and that's one of the reasons why I'll be using my Interactive Brokers account. Was I need to do these trades in an environment where I have that ability to be assigned. I don't want to be margin call. I don't want to be have any sort of broker action that could interrupt my strategy. Okay, so I mean, I don't want to be sort of overly critical or I don't want to get folks worried and that this is a dangerous tool or a risky tool or anything. That's not my intention. I think it's important to be aware of the fact that there is risk of assignment. These are very short duration trades, and they are quite speculative in nature too. And past results do not predict future results. So be careful. Make sure if you're using a backtest tool, make sure you understand the rules and that it's consistent with your understanding on how you're executing your trades. So for the Option Alpha team, again, great work putting together some new capability. It's gotten me excited to trade with earnings. I apologize if any of this is taken sort of in a negative way. It's not. That's not my intent. To be overly critical of the platform or how it's promoted or how others may intend to use it. I'm just documenting my approach for how I use it along with other platforms. And I'm going to continue. I'm going to share my result on the outcome of my trade entry on Thursday and the ultimate outcome on Friday, what actually happens. And whether I need to take immediate action, we'll document that process as well. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully this is of interest to you. Stay tuned and look for another update as soon as this coming Thursday.